Thank you. So we're going to call the open meeting now to order. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest? Can I get approval of our agenda?
Could I just ask, Madam Chair? I know the Sir John A. McDonald update is at the last.
Yes.
Could we put it at first?
Is there a reason?
Yeah. I think that it could take a little time. It's very important too.
Anybody? He would like to move H to A. Is there any issue with that?
Is there an issue with that?
John A. McDonald?
Yeah. I just have, I know you all have limited time and I just don't want to miss this because I have to leave.
Do you have any issues?
No?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. We'll put that to first one. So
Thank you.
approval of the agenda.
Good.
Approval of our minutes from March 17th.
Moved.
Any business arising from our minutes? Okay.
Madam Chair, I just want to report, Councilor Twill asked at the last meeting for me to check on the possibility of the pro lacrosse team out of Halifax being involved somehow here through development programs, etc. That organization is currently not operating because of the COVID pandemic. The league didn't happen last season, and I believe that some staff may be laid off or furloughed or something. So there's been no return to our messages. I just wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Good. Okay. So we'll move on. And the first item will be the Sir John A. McDonald update. And Your Worship, you asked to have this added to the agenda.
I did. And I know we discussed it at council.
Point of order, if I may, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
So, whatever this is we're going to discuss here, but I think we have to remember that this is in the hands of council. And I don't know if we should be doing anything until council has decided if we're going to do anything. But I don't think we finished the discussion yet either. So I don't know if we want to be going into anything else until we figure out where we're going.
Very, very good point of order, Councilor McLeod. But I think you missed some of the meeting because you left the meeting. And I think it is a very emotional issue. But we were hoping to, I did ask the chair to forward a resolution, a proposed resolution. We didn't get to that point. So I wanted to take the opportunity to hear, to discuss a possible resolution.
Well, we can't discuss what council's going to do.
No, we can propose as a subcommittee or as a standing committee of council, make a proposal to council about the situation we're in on this piece.
Are you
of
looking
art.
for an amendment to the
It has to
resolution?
be amended.
Because we can't change our resolution. We have
Again, when it was brought to council, there was a discussion point. You indicated as chair, as mayor, that would come back for continuance. So I don't know if we're out of sync with that because you were.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping to get it back here.
But you
because-
already raised it to the platform of councilorship, and council didn't send it back down here.
No, but I think what we learned from a situation regarding 18 Trainer Street is that we were trying to bring a resolution off the floor about meeting with the residents, but because it didn't come through the proper committee, standing committee protocol, that was disqualified. So I wanted to make sure that it was discussed here, at least that we know where we're going, because something has to come forward if there's a plan to amend the resolution that was passed last June.
And that's why you added to the council platform issue to have that discussion because
Correct.
council already made the recommendation or the motion and has not been met due to circumstance.
Very much.
So now it's still on council's platform before it comes back down.
Right, but the committee, the standing committee responsible for this piece of public art is this committee right here.
Council sends it back down.
Well, it was brought up to the council level because we were hoping to get some discussion and resolution. And the reason, Councilor McLeod, still on your point of order, is that we have a situation that is continually bringing us down as a city corporation. Not only the council, but also the image of the city administration. So, and I know, again,
That's your opinion.
but I know it's an emotional issue for you and some others on both sides.
On both sides.
But we have to come to some kind of compromise so that we can go forward. And the resolution that was passed last June is not a compromise, because we've been told in 2 letters from Owenaway and the Abbott Assembly of Councils, that look, we have 5 recommendations, and we want the council to look at those 5 recommendations. And that's what I'm saying here, we have to take a stand here sooner than later, because I said at that meeting, I think you were still there, Mr. Kelly, is that at some point, that piece of art is going to be destroyed. And that's a $75,000 piece of art.
But the building across the street might get hit with spray paint too.
No.
Council, we can't.
You can't compare a building to a
can't
statue that is causing a lot of emotional grief. No, there's no comparison.
Right.
Yeah, just hang on, please.
Just
Yeah.
on this point of order, again, and I do understand what the mayor is trying to achieve, but through council's discussions, it was indicated to come back to council
Okay.
for that discussion. So those 5 points were already raised at that time, Your Worship. Council has not yet made a point as where they're going to go. They may forward it back down here.
But it came from the chair of this committee,
She did indicate
right?
that as
And
well.
that she indicated she wanted to push it to the next level. We didn't have a resolution for council when we last met. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
this-
there is going to be discussion.
Yeah, this standing
Okay.
committee is that we have 5 recommendations,
So-
Councilor McLeod. And I'm telling you, we have to deal with it. To think that we can just put the blinders on and think, and just hope this will go away, it will not go away.
So let's see.
It's on Monday night, Your Worship.
Um,
Part 2.
Part 2
Well,
is,
part 2 will be part of an open discussion too. Because that's, again, this open discussion tonight is to move it to the open meeting on Monday, the last Monday of the month, because that's our second regular monthly meeting, to discuss it. But Councilor McLeod, I know,
Okay.
look, if I can just finish.
Well-
I know there's a deep divide about this. It's a wedge issue. But we're the council of this city. We have to try to bring both sides together, whatever way we feel of it. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge and we do something with those 5 recommendations. If we don't, we're just going to keep going down this road of being inactive and not being
I'm
responsible.
going to say one thing to that. Our side is at the table.
Right.
We're just.
They're not coming anywhere until we do something.
So there's
No.
your problem. There's your problem.
No, we've given our side. Our
Okay,
side-
we're gonna not have any more
Our
discussion about
side
this to-
is to
moving
leave
on.
the statute as is and produce a plaque.
Mayor,
Myself.
we're going to stop talking about this
Myself
until
and
Monday
the
night.
chair and the
Mayor?
chair have tried
Thank
to get
you.
someone to do it,
I know.
and no one is doing it
So
for us.
then what do you want us to do?
I want you both to realize we're going to discuss this.
Go with the
We're-
5 recommendations.
Are you guys seriously going to continue to talk over me? I just
Well,
said
that's-
we're going to
that's
finish
what I'm
this
saying.
conversation.
Yeah.
Where we're supposed to finish this conversation. We've been given direction from the CAO
Yeah.
that it's not back to our committee right now, so we're moving on.
Yeah. So do we have a resolution to go over Monday night?
We
Or
have
is
to
that
go
a
back.
Discussion. That's,
You're,
So, again, Your Worship, pick up where Andy left off, and you did indicate council can bring it back for that open discussion, and the 5 points were raised through the chair.
5 recommendations.
And so now, again, it's at the council level at this time, Your Worship.
So if someone comes off the floor with the 5 recommendations, we can't say the process wasn't followed, correct?
I'm not sure what you
If these 5 recommendations come off the floor to say that we want to work with our Mi'kmaq First Nations, no one can say in the room, no, that the committee responsible for this issue didn't recommend it.
So council is aware of that correspondence, Your Worship. So if council wants to take that direction, that's at council's discretion. Right now,
But someone can move a resolution off the floor.
It's at council's discretion, Your Worship.
That's all I want.
thank
Someone
you.
wants to move a resolution off the floor, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilman Black.
Okay. I want to make sure we follow process. That's why I'm not trying to cut you off. I want to make sure we're doing it the right way, so thank
This
you.
doesn't prevent us from taking a resolution off the floor Monday night. That's what I want to make sure.
Ultimate authority, Your Worship.
What's that?
Council's ultimate authority.
So
Thank you.
can he add that to the agenda for Monday?
It is on the
It's
agenda.
already on the agenda.
Okay.
Under the open
So we don't need to bring an amendment forward
No, it's
from this committee?
It's the continuance of that discussion.
Okay.
And if council wants to go down that road and bring
Okay.
forth those points as we discussed
Do
before,
something.
that's at council's
Okay.
discretion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move into the event management update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go through a quick list of updates. Because we're involved in so many platforms at council meeting or management meetings, etc., sometimes we feel like we're repetitive, so I'm just going to swoop through it here. So our team recently attended the Tourism PEI Industry Forum, where the focus was on Press Play and Tourism 2021. We're happy to say that one of the focuses for Tourism PEI, in fact, one of the top ones, is built around sport tourism. They see opportunities for there as we come through the recovery period. We attended a session with Festivals and Events PEI on Ready to Recover with Dr. Morrison and Premier King to talk about the upcoming event season. Music Week PEI recently happened, highly successful. Kudos to Music PEI for that. Our team was a part of the Sports Events Congress 2 weeks ago, I guess now, or just about 2 weeks ago. Highly successful for us, the pinnacle event in terms of sport tourism attraction efforts. We're continuing to work closely with Tourism PEI with respect to alignment. We've had some great meetings over the last couple of weeks, and it will only help us moving forward in terms of knowledge on files and being proactive instead of reactive at times. Summer events will very much happen in some capacity. We all respect and understand it's a different world. A good number of communities are working on their events right now. They may not be as we know them, but they will be events under the banners and names that we do know them, and hopefully conditions will permit those to proceed. The Event Atlantic strategy is well underway. Again, we're playing a big role in that. I had a couple of hour meeting this afternoon with the consultant on that particular project, and we're working toward the Event Atlantic Summit, which will be held in June in Halifax in a hybrid format. The Charlottetown Islanders have somewhat clarity right now with respect to their playoff format, so we're working closely with them. There is the possibility there could be an Atlantic bubble here when they play New Brunswick in terms of the Atlantic Championship, but we'll see what happens with the borders of the Atlantic bubble. YYG Charlottetown continues to hear good news with respect to air service returning from a number of companies. Last week, Laurel and I had good conversations with PAL Airlines, who's going to start service here in August with travel to Halifax and then connections with other carriers to other parts of the region and or country, so we're happy for that. And then finally, the federal budget, as we all know, came down a couple of days ago. There was great news in the budget for the events sector across the country. $400 million announced for festivals and events. The government has acknowledged that festivals and events are going to be a great pathway forward in terms of the recovery of the tourism industry. So we're very happy for that allotment of money and additional monies on top of that as well. So that's just a quick overview of my area.
Thank you. Wayne, any questions for Wayne? You good? You good? Awesome. Thank you. Going to move on to the tourism and culture update.
Thank you. So operationally, we have commenced the process of planning for both Canada Day celebrations and our Naval Day weekend celebrations. For both of those activities, we do feel more comfortable this year than last year than we did with the CHO requirements. So we will be proceeding with planning for both of those celebrations to be held in person. How exactly that rolls out and what the size and scope of those events are is to be determined through our consultations with public health. And as we move through that process, I'll continue to update the committee on what those plans look like. We have begun the hiring process for summer students in the Visitor Information Center with HR. So given the uncertainty around who will actually be able to access PEI this summer, we are going to pare back our staff again. So we'll have 2 staff versus our traditional 4. One of them is returning from previous years, and then we are in the process of hiring 1 new employee as well. As you are all aware, there was funding approved for the Arts Advisory Board in this year's budget, so it's exciting times ahead for that group. They will be meeting next week to start to embark on the process of developing RFP for the consultant that will start to develop that roadmap for creating a public art plan and increasing our public art in the city number of years, if council so chooses to adopt and enact that plan. As the chair would have mentioned at last month's council meeting, the Canadian Capital Cities Organization hosted the first session of their new virtual speaker series. So it was entitled Creating a Visitor Economy After COVID. So I have been working with a colleague in Regina on that particular series. The intent is to have 4 sessions during this calendar year. So the next session will be hosted on June the 15th. They run about 60 to 90 minutes, and it's a panel presentation style, so it's not just a keynote address. The June session is going to be centered around what the capital city's role in reconciliation can be, and what role we can or should be playing on that topic and on that front. We know it's an ongoing conversation regardless of where you are in the country, so we're looking forward to having some interesting perspectives presented as a part of that. If anyone is interested in attending that, you can let me know at any point, and we'll make sure you get the registration information when it's available. It hasn't been made available just yet. The Gold Cup Parade has started planning for the year, and as you may have seen in the media recently, they have confirmed that they will again be moving forward in some capacity that is not virtual. They have their second meeting scheduled for tomorrow, so we're going to work through a few different scenarios that can be presented to CPHO, and then we'll see where things are able to go, but things are much more optimistic than they were this time last year for that particular event. We've also been working with Discover Charlottetown and the Public Works Committee and Department. Some of you would have been in attendance at that meeting to discuss a new placemaking project for the city, so through some overhead installations in a couple of key locations. So that will kind of progress into the fall, and hopefully we'll see some great new decor and marketing photo areas of the city, if you will. And then lastly, just kind of piggybacking on what Wayne just mentioned about the federal budget announcement. So overall, that $1 billion revitalization plan for arts, culture, and sport. Some highlights that Wayne would have already mentioned include there is a $500 million tourism relief fund that's targeted directly to local tourism-based businesses, and it's going to be distributed through regional development agencies. So here it'll be distributed through a COA likely. So that's going to be a big help for those businesses. Also, Destination Canada, which would be the national tourism marketing arm of the country, they don't typically market domestically, so they are shifting. There is a $100 million budget allotment for campaigns targeted to Canadians to discover Canada. So we pulled an interesting stat out of a recent presentation that we were able to attend during the Sport Tourism Congress, that if Canadians who would traditionally travel internationally spend 2/3 of their international travel dollars domestically instead of internationally, Canada's tourism industry can recover a full year earlier than what they're currently projecting. So it's something interesting to keep in mind when you're planning your own travel over the coming years, that if you have an opportunity to do something within the country versus going to the US or going to the Caribbean, it is going to benefit many more people than if you were to travel to your sun destination. So that's all for today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Any questions for Laurel?
See the busy times.
Yeah. We've also recommenced work on the Mayor's Cup, I might add.
Yes.
Yes, at the first meeting last week.
Yeah.
And could I ask about the gardens that we have in Quebec City and how we reciprocate here? Would that fall under this, or would it fall under?
Yep, I can answer under
Could you?
Your Worship. So as a part of our partnership with Quebec City in Quebec, there's a beautiful garden which is being revitalized right now, and a beautiful bronze piece of public art which was donated by PEI 2014 Inc. It's a Charlottetown garden, and as Your Worship had the opportunity with myself to visit the site, we saw where it was going in Bosville. But it'll be beautiful. It's on a boulevard. At the other end of the boulevard, there's other Canadian political figures associated. So it's a beautiful spot of the city for it to go. In Charlottetown, we have a garden that is a tribute to Quebec City. It's in Confederation Landing Park on the waterfront. There's a large boulder with a carving into it. The part of the 2014 celebrations, Mayor LeBon was here at the time to unveil that garden. It's a rose garden. The garden probably needs some touching up. It's part of the operation at Confederation Landing, but knowing what we are getting in Quebec City, we probably should reciprocate and ensure that it's at a similar level because of the understanding we have from the partnership that it shows respect both ways as well. So I don't know if you had a specific question, Your Worship, but that's kind of...
Well, should we try to bring up the status of what we present here to, again, reflect not what is in Quebec, because Quebec is a much larger
Grant.
jurisdiction. So could we not look, I think, did we finally get it translated in both languages?
You're correct. So to answer your last question first, we do have the translation on site now. I work with Public Works and Beautification. It is installed within that garden. And that was brought to our attention. There was a temporary translation there, but it went missing. And a resident of Quebec communicated to us through Mayor LeBon's office here back to Charlottetown. But to your point, I think that we should do perhaps a review of the garden to see what's there now and to see if there's a way for us to spruce it up further and make it a bit more of a, not that it's not attractive, but bring it up to standard that it should be.
And would that fall under this
Yeah,
committee?
it falls under this committee and this committee's terms of reference.
Okay.
It does. But we would have to work.
We don't do the work.
No, we work in conjunction with Public Works and Beautification and Parks and Recreation, depending who's responsible for that particular area. So we'll take it under advisement and report back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brett? Stephen, your first report.
First
Economic
report.
Development
Well,
Update.
So it's all uphill from here. Since I've come, I've basically, learning kind of the ins and outs of working in the building, who the real power players are, and
You find that yet?
and then
Floor.
yeah, and then and reaching out to stakeholder organizations that we've had that my predecessor had worked with. Wayne and I had a chance to meet with John Cudmore from Dine Holdings, and just to learn about some of the opportunities that they have in the downtown and what they're looking at doing with some of their buildings where the office space is maybe not the best seller right now. So they have some thoughts on that. I met with Invest in Canada and just to get an idea of what they're doing, how we fit into that. They did have a report from KPMG that ranks cities in North America, and Charlottetown is figured probably in a lot of those ratings, and we can have copies of that report for the committee. And there's also an online tool that you can use to compare and contrast different things in different cities and areas. So it's a good opportunity to see, where we score well and where there are areas for improvement is possible. So we can roll through that and see what we can do with that. I met with Innovation PEI, and again, it's just to kind of get an idea of how we fit into their day-to-day operations. Moving, if somebody contacts the city first, we'll work with them, and vice versa with them for information they require from us. I met with my predecessor, Ron, and he was fantastic. He was very upfront about giving me lots of information and letting me know what worked for him in the past, what things are important, the service level that people are expecting, and I want to make sure that we don't fall below that. And hopefully we can create some more opportunities to work with local groups and businesses. Met with the PEI BioLines as well, and they were telling me about a lot of the projects that they have underway, bioaccelerators that they're working with fledgling businesses to get started, kind of an incubator, And they're talking about even a larger bioaccelerator project that could be in the pipe. Let's see. I did attend a virtual event, Building PEI's Communities, and it was on pandemic housing trends that impact Prince Edward Island. So they talked about the low supply of affordable housing in and around Charlottetown. There seems to be a surplus of higher end rental properties, but the affordable units, there aren't as many to be had. And there's the thought process that industry will fill that void as the demand becomes more, and perhaps some of the more expensive rental properties will decrease in price because of the pressures from people not renting for that. Still working on meetings with the chamber. Obviously, that's great that we were able to connect here, and I'll be able to get in there and see how we can assist the chamber and get a voice from the city at their meetings. I'm meeting with the COA on Monday, and the CADC. I understand that there's going to be a change in the running there. So I did get a message from Ron Waite, yeah, and Ron said that he and the incoming executive director are going to organize a meeting next week with them. So be a good opportunity to catch up with them. And then again, another couple, Downtown Charlottetown and Discover Charlottetown, made some comment, reached out, got some information back. They're dealing with some individual things that they can't meet right now. So whenever they're available, I'm going to get a chance to meet with them. And yeah, other than that, just I'll be working with the internal city departments to kind of get a handle on budgets and making sure that the payments that we've said we were going to make are going out, and work with communications and IT to make sure the website and the business and development section of that is up to date and provides things that the businesses need.
Jeez, you're busy.
Yeah.
Good.
And yeah, it's you know, like it's a lot of stuff coming at me.
Absolutely.
But I'm not too wet behind there. I have a few years in, so I understand that it's going to be you know a lot of information right away. And you know, I'm very excited, like I said before, to be here and to contribute. And I hope that we're able to do that. Yeah.
You had a great team with you.
Yeah, and again, in talking to Ron, nothing but praise for everybody in the organization and the leadership of the organization through the council and mayor. And I've seen that.
Excellent.
You know, it's easy to see.
Wonderful. Is there any questions for Stephen?
Thank you.
Of course.
Stephen, the affordable housing incentive program, you looked it over? Have you looked it over?
Which
The affordable housing incentive program.
Your Worship, that's not his,
But that did fall under Ron.
no, Your Worship.
Oh, it didn't fall under Ron. It was always under your office?
Yes, Your Worship. And also planning. Your Worship.
So who authored the program? Who's the author of it?
I came to council, Your Worship, at the time, and that's why it's being revamped and going to council Monday night, Your Worship. It's unbid already.
I thought there was, Ron was overseeing some of the investments that were going out to
He's under
these.
the investment program
I know, but-
for the business committee, Your Worship, but not for
But on the
that.
residential side, it's you. And as you said, Steve, that, you know, there's a much larger market value housing, and it's not affordable. And we're expecting that the market will be so full of supply, the prices will go down. That's wishful thinking. Like, we have to look at continue to
This is
support affordable
Monday
housing.
night's discussion
Planning
again?
Department's responsibility now, that has all been referred over to them, and it is coming to council.
What's that?
It's through
Now falls
planning.
under planning and development, Your Worship,
And it's
also
coming to
coming
council.
Monday night.
Yeah, I know, but again, the reason I bring this up, he brought it up in his presentation. And, you know, we talked about affordable housing, but we're just looking at changing the program after being in place, what, for 2 years?
Under the terms of, Since your
Can I
worship,
just
send it back
finish,
to
just
council.
let me just finish for one
I'll
second.
send it back
Mr. Kelly?
to council, your worship.
Yeah, just let me just finish for 1 second. So we've had it in place since 2018, and now we're looking at changing it. And that will come to council on Monday night. Yes, it's connected with planning, it's connected with the CAO, but the problem is far from over affordable housing. Right? So just look at the market and let it take its way. That's not going to put people that cannot afford accommodations into a place with a roof over their heads and heat on at night.
Just to be clear, Madam Chair, is that under that program is to be reviewed, and this is now being reviewed, it's going back to council for adjustments, because again, it needs some changes. We'll wait for council's direction, but it is mandated in the policy to come back to council.
But we have Madam Chair, we have an economic development officer that we've hired, and I know that we can use his expertise in assisting the affordable housing incentive program.
Well, we're coming into now,
Working with planning.
That's what I'm saying here.
and we're coming into terms of reference, and maybe it's something you want to add to something, because that's coming
again,
next.
Terms of reference or not, I'm just saying, he's got some background in it, I think we should use his.
He can work with planning, your worship.
What's that?
Absolutely, planning, your worship.
And
That's
that?
it.
He
Works
can
with
work
planning.
your worship.
We will be
Yeah,
working
and
planning.
again,
Don't worry
through the
about
chair, that, you know, like what I said before, but working with the departments within the municipality.
Right.
Right, there's, like Wayne and I chatted earlier, there's a lot of overlap even between, you know, our different sections in economic development, events planning and tourism, and the same thing with planning and development and economic development, right? So yeah, I will be, you know, speaking with.
Fully understand that, but
Yeah.
we're only 2 years plus into this program, and now we're changing, and the problem is not gone.
No.
It's not going away until we deal with it.
It's out
So-
of date, your worship.
So we're gonna move on, and that discussion will happen on Monday, okay? If it's supposed to happen, let's just keep following where it's supposed to. So we're under economic tourism, our terms of reference review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committees have been asked to review their terms of reference just to ensure that they are update. So our staff, Laurel, myself, Stephen, and Charlotte, reviewed our terms of reference, had a discussion with you as chair of the committee. To try to keep it simple, we've highlighted the areas that we are recommending be updated within the terms of reference. Some of them are just addition of correcting the name of the actual organization. Some of them are adding organizations. Some of them are just fixing alphabetical order, etc. There's nothing in here. It's mostly housekeeping overall, and it's totally reflective of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So we would like to recommend that the committee endorse this and send it on to, I understand from here it goes on to Tracy McLean, and then I believe it's going to the CAC. Is that
Go
correct?
to the CC and then onward to council.
Right.
So you're adding something?
Well, some of these yellow highlighted areas, your worship, are added, yes, a good number of them, because they were missed in the early going or not a part of it. Sometimes we use et cetera, which can take you on forever, and that's fine. But we added in some of the key organizations that we're involved with on a regular basis. Some were misreferenced, such as under the public art policy, as an example, was totally missing as a resource to this committee, which is a big part of the operation of the cultural file. There's others where there was an S missing, there was something was out of alphabetical order, so it's minor housekeeping notes, and we just reacted what we were requested to do.
And tell your worship, as you recall, the CC was asking all committees to review their terms of reference and bring it back for updates. There are some things that need to be tweaked, and there are some things that are changing as well, your worship.
So go down to bullet 6. Bullet 6 says to develop and promote programs to enhance the city's residential, commercial, and industrial tax base. Okay, residential. So this program under affordable housing, in the current program, it was for 20 years, no tax increase. That's never happened before. It's always been a sliding scale. We're going to change that, but it's right there in the terms of reference.
But that's,
And that's why Steve's here, who I know Ron, and is there something, yes, there's something else too down there.
the
I look at-
Affordable Housing Incentive Program.
Affordable and Housing Incentive Program.
Yeah.
Guys, like, my point here is that, like, I hear it all the time, I watch it on Twitter, I see it on Facebook. We're not addressing the issue. And to change programs that provide incentives for developers or NGOs to get into this program, we have to keep pushing those programs so we can get affordable, accessible housing. I was talking to a gentleman today who lives in Summerside, and he's living in that 7-story facility or building owned by, I think it's called Portside.
On the waterfront.
Yeah. So the first 2 floors are affordable and accessible. The other 5 floors are all market value. And there are difficulties right now, but they're growing pains, right? And that's what we talked about when we met with the minister about inclusionary zoning. He said, we have to look at different tools, and economic development has to be part of that.
No,
And it's right there, responsible for the following.
And so just.
And I knew Ron was working on it because I spoke to Ron. I know Ron from many years ago, and I spoke to him about what can we do to provide incentives. Changing the program is not a way to provide incentives. You have to, like,
So Madam Chair,
how many
just the
times a
reason
year?
for that for the accessible program, it was meant for low-end housing. We're now being asked to subsidize 1,500 and 1,600 rents per month. That's not affordable housing. And that's not what council approved that program for. That is why it's going back to council for change. And as you said, Your Worship, also, that to change that zero tax rate for
to a sliding scale, which should have been made from the beginning.
Again, Your Worship, we are changing, we have things underway, but it's going back because it's too rich, and it's not meant to subsidize the high end, it's meant to subsidize the low end, Your Worship. That's why it's coming back for council's discussion, not for the
If
developers.
you talk about Mr. Kelly, I'm glad you're debating here on the floor with all the rest of us, but if you talk about two incomes where a couple is pulling in about 75,000, right? You take that 1,500, 1,400, that works out to about 30% gross. That is affordable housing for a family of 2, maybe with 2 children. So don't just look at the low end. It covers all parts. I've been at the doors, Mr. Kelly. I don't know if you've been at the doors, but I've been at the doors where 2 parents are working and they can't afford the rent. Because, you know what, they're just working for the rent. It's not 30% of their gross income, it's 40 or 50%. And is that being fair? No.
That's why it's going back to council, Your Worship.
Well, if you're right at one part of it, I don't agree with that.
Will there be
It's-
opportunity for
it's-
discussion on this on Monday?
So it's under your terms of reference,
I
Madam
see.
Chair. Thank you.
I see that.
Your Worship, if you recall, the CAC and, strategic priorities has asked that element of housing go to
Council.
planning, Your Worship, which will go to the CAT back again. And so we will integrate some of this for cooperation, but again, planning is going to lead peace membership. It falls under their bailiwick.
So if planning's gonna be, then why is it under our terms of
So
reference?
we're gonna take this out?
We have to refine it to reflect the cooperation working with planning.
I'll take that, leave that alone. Oh,
Yeah, these are all going to CAC, so that they will tidy up and intertwine it in the right way, Your Worship.
And to be clear, we didn't take anything out of here, we only added a couple things and fixed proper names and housekeeping.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that will go back to CAC, and if it's gonna be still under our committee, we'll know that's still under our committee. If it's not, then it'll be under planning. Is
But
that
are
what
you
you're
leaving
saying?
under there?
It's still,
Well,
it's still
We're
there,
not,
Your Worship.
we're not
We're changing
proposing
that.
it, that's still basis.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we just need the committee to endorse this so we can send it
To forward to the CAC.
Yeah.
So can I have someone, if we all endorse that, yeah? Second to that, everybody approve? Okay. Thank you. We have the Arts Advisory Board, terms of reference review.
So in Madam Chair, in the same vein, we were also asked to review the effectiveness and the terms of reference of any standing committees that, advisory committees that the standing committees are responsible for. So this committee is only responsible for one, the Charlottetown Arts Advisory Board. In terms of the terms of reference themselves, there's not a whole lot that needed to be amended. You will see there was just 2 minor changes made under item 2A. The date of the report was originally recorded as 2012, but the report is actually dated January 2013, so that was updated. And then given the operational shifting of the cultural file, we have updated that the liaison is the office of the tourism officer versus the economic development officer. Everything else has remained the same.
Wasn't there, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second, some discussion about planning, being vetted through planning with the Arts Advisory on signage versus art? Did we not have that discussion?
There's a bylaw change coming forward, which is.
Nothing to do with the terms of reference.
No.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss something. Thank you.
So just one point, Madam Chair, we are trying to keep committees to 7 members. I don't know if it's fully fledged at 8 now, and if there's any vacancies. But
Yeah,
going forward, the committee has indicated to try to keep it at that maximum set.
Okay, so it does say no more than 8, and I am aware of one individual who, in their professional life, is moving towards retirement, so they are going to be looking to, in the not too distant future, step away, which would mean if everyone else was still interested in staying on, we would be at 7, and we could just make a note that the preference would be to not replace the individual that's retiring.
Should we put 7 in
Do
this
you want
wording then?
these to
It's up to
state
you,
maximum
we
of
are trying to
7?
keep everything at 7 now.
Yeah, 7.
7?
We'll change it to 7.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that?
I'll change it.
Don't wait for this person to just leave, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Well, this is an exception. We're not going to fire anybody out
No.
here. Volunteer for it.
You can send a letter.
I'll put your,
No, you can send a letter.
I will.
You have to decide it.
So in terms of the effectiveness, in my opinion, I do feel that the Arts Advisory Board has, since their inception, been an effective supporter in the development and growth of arts and culture in the city. They've done initiatives, and they continue to do initiatives, including the Charlottetown Arts and Culture Awards, which are held biennially. They should have been held last year, but because of COVID, they have tentatively been bumped to this fall. They also recently, you'll recall, worked on the establishment of the Idea Bank for Public Art through Imagine Charlottetown, and they will be obviously embarking on a new public art plan. So there definitely is valuable work and meaningful work that they can do on behalf of the city corporation. And it would be the recommendation that this committee does endorse that there's continuity in that particular advisory board, and with the exception of the adjustment to the maximum number of members, that those terms of reference would go forward.
Just before you do, number 4, it should be remuneration, not remuneration. It's correct in the text, but not in the top.
Oh, yes, okay.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Got it. That's what we always find the typos.
That's similar to some of the things. we
During,
tidied
yeah,
up
that's
in.
some of the things we tidied up in the other one too.
Wonderful, thank you. So we can move this on, and is everybody comfortable with moving this on? CAC, yeah, good, thank you. Adrenaline magazine score ads.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically information sharing. Adrenaline is the business of sport events magazine, and it's a national magazine. It's always released, the spring edition is always released during the Sports Events Congress. And just sharing with you the ad that we purchased within that particular magazine. Normally we would buy a smaller ad, but given the impacts of COVID and having to do business in a different way and get our brand out there in creative ways, we purchased a full ad this year and just included a copy for you as well. I sent a link last week to the Sport Tourism magazine. There's some good articles in there. If you have time along the way or looking for weekend reading, I encourage you to check it out and take a read. But essentially it's just information sharing of an example of an ad we use in the sport tourism market.
That's great, looks good. Everybody good? Moving on. Maclean's magazine ad article.
Yeah, so this this kind of predates me as far as organizing it and getting the information out. But recently they set out their list of Canada's best communities for 2021, and Charlottetown and all of Atlantic Canada actually figured quite prominently in it. Charlottetown was the number 10 community on the list. Last year it was number 233 on the list, so that's a pretty substantial improvement in 1 year. And the attached kind of quote there is from the article that's attached. and it basically just says that the rise of remote work, the Atlantic Canada has become more affordable for people, especially from the capital region in Toronto or Montreal, those areas with highly priced residential. I know we've talked about the residential rates here, but from what I understand, they're even more egregious in those areas. And the fact that the Maritimes has done a very good job in keeping the infection rates for COVID-19 very low as compared to the rest of the country. And the ability to travel within the Atlantic bubble allows people the variety that they wouldn't get if they were in other areas of the country as well. So attached to the report is a copy of the ad that ran in the Plains magazine and a copy of the article that highlights the rise of Atlantic Canadian communities on the list.
And just one of the part, Madam Chair, is that also the ad was discounted after we knew we were going to be in the article. It was discounted 80%, and so we worked with the province and to give them their due, they also paid 50% of this ad as well, this full-page ad. So the ad cost $4,000, and they paid $2,000 on that ad, and so it was a great deal for the city and great exposure. And stand by for more information in the next couple of days.
Exciting. Yes?
I just have a question, and Peter, you may be able to answer it. I know that you had been working with Doug on this particular item. When the article was first surfaced to staff, if you go through the actual data, I had flagged that the crime index seemed to be off. And in speaking with Brad McConnell at yesterday's meeting, he agreed that he thinks there was a math error. Is that
So we've
being
approached
addressed?
the claims. They are running through their analysis now, and we've been advised of some positive news, but again, can't say it has been quantified. So we are saying stand by, and you'll have more information the next day.
Yeah. But his information was different than what was reported in the
But
claims.
it was an incorrect calculation.
Yeah.
We believe they used another city's
Matrix?
calculation. Yes, we've just gone back to reaffirm the numbers, and we're waiting for that information.
Yeah.
So Peter, once we have that, will this story, beyond the claims itself, never circulated like through a public news release? Will our communications department put this out? That's a good news
Or
story.
just stand by.
Yeah.
please, and get into a whole lot. Right.
It's been a lot of good news stories today.
Stand
Well,
by,
thank
stand
you. So, is there anything else that anyone needs to add? We can have a motion to adjourn.
Just before we go, Madam Chair, I know we didn't cover the budget when we were going through the budget process for this, for all departments. And I think if you combine everything together, we're at 1.9 million for economic development, tourism, festival events.
Would be one. Do you know
That's
what
what I
your
looked
budget
at.
is, Steve? Did you look at the bottom line?
The reason I'm asking that, Madam Chair, is that I didn't see any of the actuals from last year because we didn't go over the budget.
That went to the finance committee for sure.
I looked for my actuals.
If you wish, I can provide that to you, but it did go to the finance committee, and it did go to council as well, your worship. It's
All
also-
the actual, I don't think all the actuals went.
So in the budget document, your worship, you'll see last year's projected outcomes, and so there were to be some more adjustments, but that was their best projections at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I know in previous years, we did get projected, no, budget projected is your actual, right? And then budget for the coming year. If you look at our budgets, we're not, it's, even with the detailed budget, it doesn't break everything down, all the events that we've covered in the past.
Our
And I
budget,
know-
we presented to the committee, it included all of that.
You presented to the finance committee?
No, when we present to this standing committee, we get all in full detail.
It went to three different committees, your worship.
I thought you said we didn't go for a budget.
I never said we could go over our budget.
We had an
No, the economic development was held up because.
His budget wasn't included in our budget
Peter had to
because,
wait for some estimates for tax incentives
Yeah.
and other
And
ones.
those updates are in the book, your worship.
But I'm
Economic.
looking for if I look under economic development, which is tab 14, it's projected, but it doesn't break it down in the areas that, like, in the projected areas.
We'll get you some more information.
That's what I'm looking for. Under the summary, it's there, but if you went to the projected areas, like the areas that identified, I'd just like to see some of them, because I'd like to, for this committee to work with Public Works and beautification on redoing some of those storyboards around the city. The one I'm referred to is out in front of the fire hall. They're, Councillor McLeod, they're so outdated, they're not readable.
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
And there was a conversation just before COVID about whether the information on some of those original ones that are on like the gray slabs,
That's what I'm talking about.
whether they've actually been replaced with the Discover Charlottetown wayfinding signage, if that information has actually been transferred and if those are even required anymore. So there was a bit of a project ongoing that we're just working with Discover Charlottetown to try to line up what information is covered through their more recent wayfinding storyboards around the city, and if that information is covered off in other areas, so we can simply have those removed. Because I also noticed that it's so faded, it's illegible.
So, Councillor McLeod, I brought it up under Public Works. I'd like to work with this committee, so hey, man, definitely work together in investment, because they're not readable, and I don't know why they're still up, and we're gonna replace them. If we want to replace them, let's do a collaborative.
Yeah, but we'd have to go beyond Public Works, so we'd have to go to Discover Charlottetown too, because you remember your worship, in 2005, we did a whole wayfinding program, which included new interpretive panels, and some of what was on those original monuments
Yes.
has been moved on to the interpretive panels,
Up to
but the
14.
monuments were never moved,
Yeah.
removed.
Yeah,
So they-
so I'd like to get them cleaned up, because they're just a mess.
Yeah.
So I think there's something ongoing there now.
Yeah,
right?
so we're just trying to, because they weren't like exact duplicates that were just placed around the city, they were placed in different areas, and the stories are also broken up a bit differently. So we're just trying to work
Times
to
here.
see the information that is illegible on the previous ones. Is it actually in other locations and is covered and they can just be removed and they don't need to be replaced? Or do we just need to add a few more panels in the same style that Discover Charlottetown has?
That's the black and gold.
The black and
Yeah,
red.
Great,
Yeah.
that's where,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying, Councilor McLeod?
So we're gonna wait to hear back from the.
Yeah, we're just working to.
Because I want to bring it up on the
And
Public
then you can
Works.
bring it up and then,
Yeah.
Your worship.
Mr. Adams and they can work together.
Just a reminder, when the finance that you're talking about, that comes from the finance department. We don't produce those documents. But I want to say this, looking from this year to last year is not a good method.
No,
Because
because-
coming through the pandemic, you should look to the previous year
Yeah.
if you want to get a gauge on spend.
Yeah, because there's a lot of money transferred.
Right.
Back into.
Right. There's things that couldn't happen and we moved it back. That's right.
And I would imagine not having an economic development officer for
Yeah.
the lion's share of the last year would have an impact on
Exactly,
those
and some
numbers
other
as well.
things changed, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts in 2020.
Well, thank you. Motion to
Thank you.
adjourn. Second, all in favor? Yay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now, just tell me when we're.
The movers dropped off